What the heck? What the flipping heck? Who did this? I did this. It was me. I opened a new credit card just over a year ago. It had a 0 APR introductory period of 15 months, which basically means I could use this piece of plastic as an interest-free loan for an entire year. And then my plan was simple. Swipe this credit card as much as I possibly can until it declines. I did hit the limit a little bit faster than I expected. The end result was approximately, okay, cool. I now owe BlackRock the equivalent of one of my eyeballs. Now what? I did not think that far ahead. Just kidding. I actually had a plan. I recorded this video after I maxed the card. Oh no, my hair. Oh no, my credit card. My credit limit started at $100 when I was 18, and I slowly built it up to what it is today. So, why? Why did I do this? I had this dumb idea, and it's in progress right now, so I don't know, it might still be dumb, it might work out. I decided I was gonna live off my credit card for the entirety of 2024. That way, I wouldn't have to think about bills or food or whatever else comes up. I focus solely on trying to increase my revenue. Then, if I actually pull it off and I increase it enough, ideally, whatever balance is on that card will be irrelevant. What if I could just go back to like kind of my teenage years where that's just an afterthought and I can put all of my focus into whatever I'm creating. I have swiped that card 501 times and now I'm back to paying my bills just with my checking account. However, I also lost some revenue streams. A couple of the streams I lost were my roommates because they moved out, as well as I didn't deliver for Amazon in June or July. However, I did create some new revenue streams that are going to continue to grow. I started Turo. I also got a huge surge in channel memberships, and I was able to seek out and get some new sponsorships. I'm genuinely optimistic and not really stressed about it. After all, it's just numbers on a screen, right? Just close your eyes, just turn off the computer, you don't see it. However, I have 7 months to pay off $23,500, but we'll see what happens. I'd have to pay over $3,000 a month, so I need to find an extra $100 a day, so I actually don't know what's gonna happen. You're gonna get to see in real time whether I pull it off or not. It's not gonna sneak up on me, I can guarantee that, but I might still not make it. Also, I'm gonna go back, dive back into roommates, so that is what you're gonna see next, is me attempting to get roommates that pay rent and are normal, because I just want them. I'm only getting roommates to pay off my credit card. I don't need no funny biz. I'm not buying any more Teslas for roommates. I actually look forward to paying the card off. It'll be rewarding, it'll be satisfying, and someday it's gonna be paid off. Hopefully you're there for that day when we can once again celebrate another debt down the drain. So then I got 2 more roommates, but this time they're from Craigslist. You kind of already know this if you watch my videos. So while they were passively earning me money, I would focus on grinding out other video series, as well as doing stuff like Amazon Flex and Turo. But one of them started squatting because she was a narcissistic feminist who said that housing was a human right, which ended up costing me a few $1,000s to get her to leave. So as a change in plans, again, I made videos about the squatter roommate, and similarly to the first roommate experience, it worked out pretty well. In fact, these 2 series combined brought enough new people to this YouTube channel to boost my revenue. Even better, this was the first year since 2021 that I didn't have to file a tax extension or pay any late fees on what the IRS claims that I owe them, what they say that I have to pay them or else I flipping die. So I assume the reason credit card companies give you these huge introductory periods are so that you just gradually rack up debt and then it eventually fills up and it kind of just sits there. I mean, it asks you for like a minimum monthly payment. In my case, 1% of the statement with no interest. So it was just $235 per month. So you could fall into this groove of paying this very minuscule amount each month, but the company doesn't really give you a warning or much of a reminder like, hey, you've got 6 months left of interest free, you've got 3 months left. No, they kind of just like hit you with it overnight. And then all of a sudden, you now owe 29.97% interest on this balance. So those $235 a month payments won't even begin to make a dent in what's truly owed. Let's say I tripled my monthly payment to $700 once this period ended. I would still end up paying over $26,000 in interest before the card is paid off. Hopefully, most people won't just be randomly handed such a large amount of like available credit the way that I was. But unfortunately, I have seen these cards do exactly this to multiple friends of mine. 2 of them actually opened very similar cards to this one. I think one might open the exact same card. One of them got a $4,000 limit and the other got around $2,000. They both maxed the cards within like a month, figuring that they would figure out a plan before it's due, because 15 months, that is so far out. So much could happen in 15 months, that's true, I agree. A lot happens in my 15 months. And then one day, long after they forget about the card, a new statement is mailed to them that includes, oh, interest. This is when panic ensues. One of them opened another card in an attempt to just buy more time, but her credit score was already hit so hard that the new balance was not too great. However, she still put her living expenses on this new card so that at least a little bit more cash flow could go towards paying the older card first, but it was too late. She fell behind permanently and ended up being sent to collections, annihilating her score for good and costing a lot more money than that measly 30% interest. The same thing happened to a second friend, just minus the collections part. Luckily, the monthly minimums were being paid, but at a pace that thousands of dollars of interest would be owed on a card that wasn't even much more than $2,000 to begin with. So it was after this happened multiple times that I decided, okay, I'm done recommending that anyone opens a credit card. I mean, I like credit cards, I like building a score, but I'm realizing I didn't feel responsible for either of these cases, but I definitely encouraged both people to be like, yeah, open a credit card. Like, they've got this introductory fee. This is what you can do with it. Like, kind of just modeling after what I was doing. But because I failed to gauge which friends were like organized enough and focused enough to actually follow through with the plans, basically to pay it off before that oh so attractive interest-free period wore off. However, if you do decide to take one of these cards, now I'm going to show you what I did to stay on top of it, because once the card was maxed out and there was 8 months left to pay the card with no interest, I made a Google spreadsheet with 244 rows. That was 1 row per day over the course of the 8 months. The top row was the day I made the spreadsheet, which listed the maximum balance, while the final row had my goal balance of 0 at the end of the introductory period. I divided the balance by 244 to see how much I had to pay per day to stay on track. And then I added about a week's worth of buffer if I fall behind, and so it came out to needing to pay exactly $100 per day for 235 days straight if I didn't want to pay any interest. So one column was that day's date, another column was the current balance of the credit card, then there was a column with my goal balance for that particular date, so this would basically be $100 less per day. And then I had a column for how much I had paid towards my card on that particular date. So if I paid $200 that day, I put 200. If I paid 0, I put 0. And the final column was the amount of money that I was ahead or behind by according to this schedule. So it would automatically calculate. Basically, each day would subtract by 100 because I should have paid an extra 100. But if I did not pay that extra 100, that would be added to the difference column automatically. Then I color coordinated each row to match the progress as the days passed. So dark blue this is the best color. This means that I made a payment that day and I was on schedule. Light blue meant I did not make a payment that day, but I was still on schedule. Yellow meant I made a payment, but I had fallen behind on the schedule. And red meant that I did not make a payment and I was behind schedule. Now, I kind of loved how this math worked out, because not only is $100 a day a very nice even number, but it was also about how much I was making from Amazon Flex at the time. I don't do it anymore, but I was making about $100 a day. So I could hypothetically do a shift, get home, transfer the money, submit a $100 payment, update my spreadsheet, rinse and repeat 244 times. But as you can see from this spreadsheet, there is a whole lot of red going on. And this is because I started the spreadsheet right around the same time one of my new tenants started squatting. So I never saw the rent money that I was going to use on top of my other sources of income. And so as the days passed and as I was working on evicting this new tenant, I was falling more and more behind. Now, luckily, finances and debt in general, they just don't stress me out. They I don't know. They don't really affect me when I wake up, whether it's good or bad. I'm chilling. However, I will say that seeing all these red columns was still disappointing because I had a plan and the plan was not working. But right off the bat, having this spreadsheet, even if it was pretty red, it really did help push me simply because I'm such a spreadsheet enthusiast, I guess. I kind of make them for everything. Like every project you've seen on this channel, from selling animals to making merch to buying cars to being a landlord to renting out cars, they've all had spreadsheets. I even had a spreadsheet for my ex-girlfriend. She hated this, by the way, because it showed an itemized list of exactly how much she was costing me per day, and it was accurate. It was down to the penny, sorted by category. So it would literally be like food category, cookout, $11.96, one burger, one milkshake. Shopping category, Target, $22.60, shampoo, 2 bath bombs. Now, do I regret making the girlfriend spreadsheet? I mean, no. I'll probably do it again. However, I'm also not surprised that this was a point of contention in the relationship. Now, if you want to keep super detailed track of your finances, I personally suggest you download my genuinely favorite app on my phone, that is Rocket Money. Well, actually, after Discord. Join the Discord because that's my favorite app. Second favorite app, Rocket Money. You just set it up and it tracks everything, and it sends you notifications about anything that you might want to know. So you don't even have to check the app manually. It'll let you know about your spending habits and patterns and budgeting and just all things money related. I get a commission when you download it using my link in the description, so thank you if you decide to sign up. Okay, so without this credit card spreadsheet, I would have known in the back of my head that, well, my credit card is due at some point, and I should probably start making payments at some point. But for one, it was really, before I had the spreadsheet, I kept forgetting when the credit card switches over, because if I go on to Chase, it doesn't say it anywhere. I mean, it took me 5 minutes of active searching to figure out when the introductory period ended, so I finally just wrote it down, and then I was like, actually, since I have this written down, let me make a spreadsheet about it. And so having it be part of my morning routine to get up, click my current spreadsheets, and see exactly what I owed encouraged me to at least make just little tiny payments. That's why you see some random yellow lines of $100, $150, $300. In the grand scheme of the credit card, these were very small payments that felt it felt kind of trivial to make them, especially so infrequently, but I just wanted to see some progress. I wanted to break up the red lines in this and at least get some yellows in there. And ultimately, these small payments did add up. But I wrapped up 2024 with just 10% of the credit card paid off. So I decided, it was New Year's Eve, I was looking at my spreadsheets, and I wanted to get things started in the new year with a bigger jump, something of more substance. So I said, screw it. I took basically whatever cash I had and I put it towards the credit card. So it was $1,000. And then in January, I made smaller but consistent payments, which brought my progress up to 30% of the card having been paid. In February, however, I actually made 0 payments. I decided to wait until I got a YouTube deposit, which included earnings from the second roommate series, and that allowed me to finally, at the end of the month, make $5,000 in payments, which got me up to date and finally able to start putting blue in my little rows on my little spreadsheet. These payments were big enough that they put me ahead of schedule by $1,000. But of course, me being ahead was temporary, because if I don't keep paying that $100 a day, it was going to fall behind again. So each day it dropped by 100, and what do you know? After 10 days, I fell behind again. However, I decided I wouldn't rush it. Again, I wouldn't panic, because I knew at this point, once I started making some payments, I felt like I was on top of things. So in March, I did another $6,000 in payments. Now, to step back a little bit, there was really no logical reason for me to pay this loan off early. Well, okay, I shouldn't call it a loan, but for me to pay this credit card off early, because there was no interest for this time. If I really wanted to min-max this loan experience, I can't call it a loan, this credit card experience, I should have taken these big chunks of money that I had already put towards the card, and I should have just held on to it. Not spend it, but instead, if I really wanted to take full advantage, I should have kept them all in my best savings account, my interest-bearing savings account. So that way, over the 8-month period, I would have actually been getting paid for letting the bank borrow my money. It would take no effort from me. I just hold the cash, and then on the final due date the credit card is due, I transfer the entire savings account to Chase to pay the card in full. So it would have gone from 23K to 0 in one day. This would have meant that I still paid $0 in interest, but I also would have been paid interest by the bank for holding it in my savings account. So let's say theoretically, I was able to hold 23.5K in my Capital One savings for 8 months. This account currently pays me 3.6% APR, which would have equated to $560 in cash, I think, if I did the math right, by doing absolutely nothing. But instead of taking advantage of this, I decided to pay, I think of it as like a psychological tax, I guess. It's the same reason I didn't pay my previous loans off from highest APR to lowest APR. That makes the most sense. It would save me the most money, but I personally paid them in the order that just made me feel the best. For example, I paid off my 0 APR medical loan before my 3.9% car loan, which sounds dumb, and I guess you could argue it is dumb, but I just didn't like getting those medical documents in. It was, for one, it was a reminder of me being in the hospital, and I kind of didn't want to keep remembering that every month because they'd send me a bill. So I was like, you know what? I much prefer getting the bill about, hey, you got to pay for that car that you bought because you wanted a fun car, instead of, hello, do you remember when you were in the hospital? Yeah, it's time to pay for that again. So I paid the psychological tax there, got rid of the medical loan, and then took care of the car loan. And so in the case of the credit card payments, I just got a pretty good dopamine rush every time I would click submit payment. Would it have felt good to see money appear each month in my savings? Yes, but that's what I picked. So yeah, anyway, this brings us to April, which is like right now. Actually, it's literally today. This is a month that I should have made no payments whatsoever. I just take advantage of that sweet, sweet saving interest. But I didn't. I paid the card off instead. I sort of think of it as like, learn the rules before you break them, or whatever the quote is. Like, you should understand what you're, quote, supposed to do, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. Like, it's kind of up to you. It's your responsibility. So I feel like I do consciously know, like, how to play the credit card game, but I just decided to switch up a few details. But in the end, I did follow through with the plan that I set up for myself over a year ago. First, opening up this card allowed me to have more time and more energy to be on camera and write scripts and come up with ideas. I basically just bet on my channel gaining traction before I had to pay my credit card back. Of course, the alternative to this was that none of my videos do well and I can't get roommates, and then I'm just in even more debt that I can't pay off, and then I like default on my credit card and end up in collections like all my friends do. So I get that this isn't the best thing for everyone, but I am personally always happy to take like what I would think of as like a calculated risk. I feel like the most obvious alternative to this whole experience was I keep paying everything in cash month by month. I keep focusing on earning short-term money, say like through Amazon Flex and by having a lower budget, also eating cheaper foods, and also making videos that are like low investment, like take a little amount of time, take a little amount of money, but weren't necessarily as good of videos. However, the benefit of this is I wouldn't be risking like paying interest, I guess, on a credit card. But instead, I maxed the credit card, and then I got to do fun things like move my friends in, buy another Tesla, which was not only way more fun and a lot more memorable, but you, as the viewer, got to enjoy it as well, if you enjoyed it. It also helped like pave a new path for the direction of my channel. So this go around, I would argue that the gambler won and the casino lost, because Chase let me borrow their money, plus an extra $500 in extra cash from all the credit card points I got, and I gave them nothing in return. I just gave them the money back, but I got to keep the extra 500. But now there's a new problem that lies ahead. I mean, what do I do now? I love paying off debt. It's so fun. It's like an IRL video game where I just get to like explore these different quests in an attempt to like collect gold and watch the progress bar fill up so I don't get like killed by the little IRS NPCs, or not IRS, the little collections agency NPCs. But as of recording this video, I don't really have any debt left to pay off. Okay, I mean, I have an entire 82% of a mortgage left, but I'm not going to make any early payments on my mortgage because I have a good rate on it. But yeah, now all my credit cards have empty statements. 3 of the cars are now owned outright. My medical loan and personal loan have been paid off, and my tax loan has been paid, as well as I'm currently up to date on what I owe the government. So that's pretty cool. But who, like, Who am I if I'm not an American Zoomer in crippling debt? What is my purpose? Where do I go from here? I don't know. You can tell me, I guess, in the comments. Of course, I'll read. I read them. I read every comment on the channel. Regardless of what happens, you'll get to see it here on this very Go Herping YouTube channel. So a big thank you to everyone that watches these videos, especially those of you who support me directly with a channel membership, and especially to my ex-roommates who are interesting enough to make videos about. If you enjoyed this, hopefully you'll stay tuned for what's to come, because now that I can move on to new things, I certainly will. But fear not, because I love spending money, and I promise I will spend all of it. Not just for my own entertainment, but for your entertainment as well. And once again, I encourage you to download Rocket Money using the link in the description if you haven't already. I think you'll like using it. If you don't, you can just uninstall it. But if you do like using it, it helps support me at no extra cost to you. So that'll be it for this video. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.
Credit card bills. Well, I knew this was coming. Let's see what the damage is. Only $10,000. That's not so bad. I'll just subtract it from today's profit. And there's no money in here.